Well, then, shall we get to to perhaps the reason we decided to do this as a topic at all, with the Three Colours films, the first one of which, at least chronologically, is blue?
As Scott said, we've come to the Three Colours trilogy, something which has been described by many as Kieślowski's masterpiece. But since this masterpiece has also been identified as Decalogue, the 10-part short film series made for Polish TV, opinion is clearly divided. Based on the colours of the French flag, Three Colours consists of 3 parts, bleu, blanc and rouge, with each said to represent the ideals of the French Republic: liberté, égalité, fraternité. Liberty, equality and fraternity, if you're not familiar with what it means. Though they're sort of retroactively mapped on, as Kieślowski himself has said that those particular 3 words are used because the money to make them came from France, but if the money had come from elsewhere, the films would probably have been much the same.
Yes. At the risk of crashing into this, and I don't see any connection between any of them and their supposed themes whatsoever.
I did, but I kind of wonder if I was looking for it. Yes. I'd found what I was looking for rather than it actually being there. But I guess we'll come on to that. Trois Couleurs Bleues, the first entry, is about freedom. Allegedly, particularly in Scott's case. Even if that freedom is not something... Actually, to be honest, I saw it more in this film than the other ones. It's about freedom, even if that freedom was not something that had been sought. Juliette Binoche, is the wife of a lauded composer whose husband and daughter die in a car crash at the film's opening. She wakes in hospital to find herself freed from her past and her present, and with an unknown future. Clearly lost, she makes a half-hearted attempt at suicide, and witnesses her housekeeper in floods of tears because she is incapable of them herself for her lost family. She calls her husband's assistant, who she knows to be infatuated with her, to come and have sex with her in an attempt to feel something, anything. It fails, and she goes from the home she shared with her family, scraping her fist along a stone wall in her numbness as she leaves her old life for good. Julie then moves to Paris and finds a flat in a relatively run-down area of the city, where she knows no one and no one knows her, intent on living a life without attachment, memory or possessions. That's a difficult task for anyone, and certainly for someone as inherently decent and friendly as Julie. She befriends Lucille, Charlotte Vere, a sex worker who survives a petition to have her evicted from their apartment building after Julie refuses to give her signature to the unanimous consent the measure requires. And this friendship inadvertently leads to Julie discovering that her husband had been having an affair. She is also tracked down by her husband's assistant, Olivier, Benoit Réjean, who is now shown to be, alas, yet another creepy bastard, and who, in line with all of these other films, begins a closer relationship with Julie rather than being told to take a hike. She and Olivier work together to complete Patrice's final commission, a concert for the unification of Europe, and it's clear that there is at least a portion of truth in the reporter's assertion earlier in the film that Julie, and not her husband, was the composer. Which raises yet another possibility of what it was that Julie fled and is seeking freedom from. In this case, living a lie, or some sort of charade at least. Meanwhile, Julie tracks down her husband's former mistress and discovers that she is pregnant with her husband's child, though her subsequent actions are probably not those you'd expect, or for that matter necessarily believe. As with most of the works we've watched for this episode, Three Colours Blue is more about mood than narrative, though it manages to largely satisfy in both counts here. Colour plays a large part in both, and Sławomir Idziak's photography and use of blue hues conveys the sense of loss, isolation, hopelessness and depression that Binoche's character feels, though never feels overwhelming or oppressive. The bigger question about this film, and the Three Colours trilogy as a whole though, is what it's saying about the European Union. If the increased unity of the nations of Europe post-Maastricht Treaty is so hopeful, why is the music so funereal and sombre? Of course, it could just be that it's not very good music, which is certainly also true, but does it hint at the director's own feelings, particularly from his perspective as a citizen of now post-communist Poland? Probably, but my bigger question remains why, in a film where this piece of music plays such a prominent role, isn't the music better? Whatever it does or does not do, it did entertain me, especially Juliette Binoche, an actor I've always appreciated. She plays Julie sensitively, ably walking the line between detached, even aloof, and cold. And her response to the impertinent reporter accusing her of rudeness when she questions her days after her husband and child died is pleasingly low-key. A promising start to the trilogy.
Yeah, just in general, the three colours, I wasn't expecting the colour in the title to be quite so literal.
It's very literal, isn't it?
There's a lot of blue, and there's a lot of white, and there's a lot of red in those respective films. Yes, this one, I think I appreciated it mainly because Juliette Binoche is so good. It's an incredible turn from her. Really is, really does a good job of dragging you into this character and dragging you along with it. And that's the standout in this film for me. The rest of it, I don't know. I didn't dislike it, but I kind of got to the end of it and went, yeah, cool story, bro. But I didn't take a lot more from it than that. Yeah, it is a film that is worth seeing just for that acting performance alone, in terms of how it deals with loss and bereavement and that kind of thing. Yeah, I'm not so sure I can buy into it on that basis. I'm not sure I buy the emotions that it's going for. I'm not sure I buy the kind of way that a lot of the characters are reacting in it. I can, to a degree, understand it, and I think, again, just because it is such a hell of a turn from Binoche that you can kind of get pulled along with it. But a lot of times it didn't feel hugely realistic or relevant to me. I suppose not everything needs to be, but yeah, for me, this was just kind of bouncing off. It was an interesting story to go through. Yeah, a lot of it I just didn't really find all that captivating. The kind of struggles to compose a terrible piece of music, which takes up the whole last half hour or something, is fiddling about with music, or at least it felt like it anyway, and didn't really seem to be going towards any kind of emotional catharsis either for the characters or for me at that point. I wasn't really on board with that, but yeah, I certainly wouldn't want to dissuade anyone from watching it. I still enjoyed for the most part, and yeah, as I say, such a hell of a performance that it's worth watching on that basis alone.
But seriously though, what is it with Kieślowski and stalkers?
Yes, lots of creepiness abounds.
Yeah. Olivier tracks her down to Paris, says he comes to, stands about in this neighbourhood for weeks, maybe even longer, until the whole way runs into her. This person said she didn't want anything to do with him.
Yeah.
But then that turns into, well, we'll be in at least a friendship now, possibly a romantic relationship.
Yeah.
In fact, yeah, definitely, because she talks about sex again with him on the phone saying, I'll be right over.
Yeah.
Yeah, so weird. I'm beginning to think Kieślowski's always a creepy guy.
Yes.
Also, this is an opportune moment to present it, but Kieślowski seems to be really well regarded, almost in retrospect, certainly from Three Colours backwards, when people who'd seen Decalogue seemed to really like it, but it wasn't that widely seen.
Yeah.
And he wasn't as lauded as other contemporaries in European cinema at the time. There have been some absolutely rotten takes on him, though. And I know at the time of the release of Three Colours, it was because of its performance at Cannes and places like that. Whereas, interestingly, one of its pieces lost the Palme d'Or at Cannes to Pulp Fiction, and people seem to think that was a tragedy, as opposed to, well, quite clearly the right thing. Pulp Fiction's a far better film, but okay, we'll come to that one. But it seemed to be kind of an art house darling for a while, and for some people still is, but there'd been I don't know why, but sort of around about 2010, 2011, I wonder if maybe that was the first time it was in the Criterion Collection or something. Seemed a lot of pieces that were sort of looking back at it in retrospect and saying, actually, it's not as good as everybody said at the time, but it's still good, that kind of thing. But there are some really terrible takes. I want to mention one that just sort of struck me as missing the point quite spectacularly. It's about this film. It's about Three Colours Blue. Why does Julie persist in describing the rat she found in a cupboard as a mouse? Is it in fact a symbolic rodent? A rodent of regret, of conscience? Well, first of all, A, mice are rodents as well as rats, so... B, she probably persists in calling a mouse because it was a mouse. You could tell it was a mouse because it looked like a mouse, not a rat, which are bigger and different. It was a mouse. That's probably why she called it a mouse, you colossal oh, it's just what a ridiculous take. That was in the Independent, by the way. It wasn't just like some sort of Rotamy blog nobody read or anything, you know. National newspaper. It's like, is it a symbolic rodent? Not so much. It's more of a rodenty rodent. So yeah, there are some truly horrendous takes surrounding this stuff. I don't know what is going on.
Yeah. I suppose that's the thing. If you make a film that's sufficiently vague, people will try and fill that void with it. I mean, how many column inches are spent trying to get any kind of meaning out of David Lynch's films, which is fun to do, but I'm not really convinced there is much to it.
Yeah, but at least you can believe that David Lynch is willfully avoiding all this.
Yeah.
Either he has very something specific in mind and he delights in never telling anyone,
yes,
or he very specifically has no idea what they're meaning and doesn't want to.
Yes. And he will troll you for the rest of his days.
Yeah, clearly this is the one that I liked much more than you, but even if I didn't, I would absolutely agree with Scott with your point about Julia Benish's performance alone just being enough. It's really good, is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.